ExcelR. We don't just train, we build careers.
So let's go ahead and understand the data that we will be applying for the purpose of the mini project. So here is a Titanic dataset that we have taken, wherein we have some columns which I would like to explain to you. So we have the passenger ID column, we have the name of the passenger and the ticket P class. Also, we have the information about the gender, the age, siblings and spouse, parents and children, the ticket number, the ticket fare value, the cabin and the port of embarkment. So this is the data that we have here. Now what we are going to do is, we will do a little bit of data cleaning at the data source level and maybe generate a few more columns, and then we will go ahead and try to create some visuals in order to analyze this data. So here I have opened a new Tableau file and I have loaded the Titanic dataset, and it can show here in the data source level. Let us try to explore this dataset. So first thing first, I have the passenger ID. I also have the survived column, which tells us whether the passenger in consideration, has he survived the mishap or not. So here 0 stands for not survived and 1 stands for survived. So let's change that from 0 and 1 to survived and not survived. For that, we will be writing a calculated field. Also, we have the ticket P class, where we can mention it as 1 as first, second as 2 as second, and 3 as third. We will then go ahead with the name. Now, amongst the name, we have the title. So let's extract the title in another column, which can perhaps also let us figure out what could be the possible age. So we will do this data cleaning, and further to that we will also check if there is any missing data in these siblings and spouse, as well as in parents and children. Then we will be having the ticket number, the fare value, the cabin, which has quite a lot of null values as we can see here. So perhaps we might have to drop out the cabin column. And in the port of embarkment, we have the alphabets like C, S and Q. So here is a Q. So we will mention the full name of the port of embarkment instead of these abbreviations. So that will give a much better view for us in the visuals. So let's get started. Now in the first scenario, I would like to figure out or create a new column for survived, where 0 should stand for not survived and 1 for survived. So let's go ahead and create the calculated field on the survived column. Here we can mention that this is the new column for survival status, where I mentioned that if in the column survived I have the value 0, then mention as not survived, else survived. Let's put end, and now let's check what's the error. Teacher and string values. So okay. So given that the value here is in numerics, we must not put the inverted comma, and so I have eliminated the error. Now when I click on apply, we have got the new column with us. So moving forward, we will use this particular column instead of the survived column. Also, For the ticket P class, let's mention a condition. So I will close this and create a new calculated field on the ticket P class. So let's create a new calculated field. Here we will mention as passenger class. So if the P class value is equal to 1, then I would mention first, else. So I will give an else if condition where P class is equal to 2, then second, else third. So just to be safe, we will also mention an else if condition here, so that even if there is any other value, we can mention it as invalid class. So if P class equals 3, then third, and if at all there is any other value apart from 1, 2 and 3, then we can mention as invalid. Now let's end it and click on apply. So we now have the passenger ticket class as well. Next, let's look at the title. So in the name column, we could have titles like Mr., Mrs., Miss. We can also have Master and yep. So these are the kind of titles that we can expect. So we will create a new column for this as well. Let's go ahead and create a new column on the passenger name. Now this is the title column where we will use the string related functions. So string related functions have contains. So suppose if at all in my name I have the value Mr., then I can mention in the new column as Mr., else I can mention as Miss or Master, however the title may be. So we will have to look for that value in the entire name. So let's go ahead and check it out. So if name contains so here I will mention the name column inside the contains column. So if contains name Mr., then in the title I want to mention Mr. Let's do a trial. So when I click on apply, yes, wherever we have Mr., we can see that it has already mentioned that over here. So just to be safe here, after Mr. we must have a period. So I will mention that here in my command. So this will make things much more appropriate. So even if I have a Mrs. title, then that would be shown as a different value. So that's perfect. Now we will mention the conditions for the other titles. So if contains in the name column Mrs., then this is the title. Also if contains name, Miss, then the title should be Miss. Also, we could have had a title as Master, so we shall put that as the next value, Master. Then, so these are my conditions. Let's put an end to this and okay. So here we will put else if. Here as well we will have an else if, and finally we will have else if here. And apart from that, if we have any other title, so let's put a condition for that as well. Else we can mention others. So finally our condition is ready. Let's go ahead and apply this. So now we have all the titles which are present in the name, and our column is ready. So if at all I have any missing data in the gender column, it is possible for me to fill up the value right now. But we do have some missing values in age, as you can mention. So I will have to set a condition for the same. So we will do that in a while. Meanwhile, let's also go ahead and change the column header for siblings and spouse, because SIBSP sounds quite confusing. So we will change this as siblings and spouse. So that's my column name. Also, PAR stands for parents and children. So we are going to change that as well. Parents and children. Then we have the ticket number, the fare, the cabin. So we will leave them as it is. And finally we come to the embark column, for which we are going to give the full names. So let's go ahead and create a new column on embarked. So let's create a calculated field, port of embarkment. So if embarked column has the value S, then the name should be Southampton. So that's the port. Else if embark column has the value C, then Cherbourg. Else if embark column has Q, then Queenstown. So I have also mentioned the conditions. Finally, else we will mention as others. Finally, end the statement and click on apply. So we will have another column which is prepared here, which will mention to us the name of the port of embarkment in full. So we have done enough data preparation for now, and we can now go ahead and apply this data set in our visuals. So let's click on OK and let's try to go to the sheet. So you can see that all the names and columns are present over here. So we can use these in our visuals. So let us now go ahead and create our sheet. In order to create the first visual, I would like to first figure out how many of the passengers from the Titanic mishap have survived and how many have not been able to survive. So for that we will go ahead and create a bar chart. So let's create a bar chart with yes, so we will go ahead and add the name, the passenger ID name, and let's add that here. Add all members, and let's put the survived column or the survival status column in the columns. Also, let's go ahead and transform this from a text table to a bar chart, and instead of showing the name we will show the count. So let's go ahead, go to measure and say count distinct. So here I have all the counts of the passengers who have not survived and the ones who have survived. Let's also put the text table. So we have the count as 765 for not survived and 543 for survived. So these are the labels that I have added. Let us transform that into entire view. So that is my first sheet that I have created, where I can clearly see count of passengers survived or not survived. So we have created the sheet out here. Now we will go into the next sheet, and let us also create a pie chart to figure out the count of passengers that have boarded from each of the port of embarkment. So if I select the port of embarkment and the Titanic dataset count, we will be able to fish out the count of passengers that have boarded the ship from Queenstown, Southampton and Cherbourg. So for that purpose I could also take the port of embarkment and the passenger ID, create the pie chart with the help of survive column, and then let's go to show me and create a pie chart. So I shall remove the port of embarkment for now. Also let's create this as a count. We will transform from sum of P class to the count of P class. So we'll take the count of P class here as well. Here. So we have a perfect pie chart here through which we are able to analyze the count of passengers that have boarded from each and every port of embarkment. So let's go to the entire view, and we need to make a change here, because instead of showing the summation of the P class, I would like to show the count of the P class. So we'll go ahead and transform that to count, also the size to count. So this is precisely the count of passengers that have boarded from Southampton, Cherbourg as well as Queenstown. So now in order to add the labels, I will go ahead and add the port of embarkment on the label card. So we can clearly see others, Cherbourg, Queenstown and Southampton. So there are two of them from others, and let us try to figure out which ones are they. So for that I will go ahead and create a text table. So this is the pie chart for impact we can also get our counts out here. So P class on the label card with the count. Right. Now, in order to fish out what was the port of embarkment for these two passengers, since it shows others, we can go ahead and create a text table wherein I will mention the embarked. I will also mention the port of embarkment. And let's go ahead and select the name as well. So here I will add in the others in the filter. So we will add the port of embarkment in the filter. So port of embarkment in filter, wherein I would like to select only others so that I know precisely the name of those passengers that have boarded the ship from ports other than Cherbourg, Queenstown and Southampton. So when I click on apply, I can see that in the embark column I have the null data. So it is because of this null data is why I am able to see others. So in that case, we will have to leave it as blank because we do not have a perfect idea on where exactly these two passengers have boarded the ship. So we will mention it as others for the time being. So let's click on apply and OK. So we have made an analysis of the data basis on the null data in our port of embarkment. So I can go ahead and keep my filter so that we are able to get a correct view about it. So click on OK, and here we are checking for others in port and embarkment. So I've just done a quick exploration of my data to find out whether I have any null data in the port of embarkment. So that's my next step. Now, we will also figure out how many of the passengers are adults, how many of them are children, and amongst the female as well, how many are adults and how many are children. So for that, we can go ahead with a title column and figure out the count. So we will create one more pie chart or one more sheet out here, and in this case, we can go ahead and create a stacked bar chart. So what I will do first is add the title or maybe the gender. Let's add the gender in columns. Let's add title on the detail, and here I would like to take the count. So let's take the count of the entire data, make it entire view. Now I have female and male as two different columns. Within female and male, I would like to add extra detail about the count of title. So we'll add this to detail, and let's also go ahead and give a different shade. So I will also add the title on color card. Now let's check it out. Here I have master, miss, Mr., Mrs. and others. Since I have others here as well, I would like to go ahead and figure out for myself which are the passengers for which I do not have a title. So we will do that in the next sheet, but for time being we can clearly see that majority of my passengers are having the title Mr., which means they are adult males. On the other hand, I have very few children who are males. So we have a very small count out here, that is just 61. Let's go ahead and also add the count in our label card. So we will put Titanic Dataset count on the label card so that we are able to see the counts right here. So I have approximately 260 females who are unmarried since the title shows Miss, and 197 of them are married since the title shows Mrs. Now my task is to figure out about the others passengers for which we do not have the title. So we will fish out how we can extract the title for that. So let's go ahead and create another sheet. So this is my analysis by gender. So now we are going to add the title on the rows. Let us also add the name. And here we will go ahead and filter the title based on others. Click on apply and OK. Right. So here we can see that instead of Mr., we have the title as doctor. And since we have not written any title for that or did not give any condition for the doctor title, that's the reason why it shows as others. So here itself I can figure out which are the other titles that I should have added to my calculated field. So we have colonel, we have madam, we have rev, we have doctor, major, captain, and we also have sir and lady. So these are the different titles that we were supposed to add up. So let's go ahead to the title calculated field and we will edit the calculation and we will write our additional calculations here. So let's go ahead. Now in else if, suppose if the name contains doctor, then I will mention here as doctor. Also, if the name contains so let's create just one more extra field for our the doctor field, the doctor title, and rest of them we can leave it as others. So we'll go ahead and change this. So we are going to remove this particular calculated field. And let's not create the additional titles for each and every name because we can anyway put them in others. So I have also separated all the doctors as a separate field and rest of it will remain as it is. So let's click on apply and OK. So here I have all those names which have titles other than Mr., Mrs., Miss and Doctor. So this is my analysis by title. So now we will go ahead and figure out that for each of the title, how many of the passengers have survived and how many could not manage to survive. So let's go ahead and create another sheet where I would create a bar chart. So in the bar chart, I would like to take the title on columns. Then we can take the count of survived in rows and put in the details for gender. So we will go ahead and take the gender column and put it on the detail or let's say color card. So as you can see that for every title we are able to get the count of how many of them could survive and how many could not survive. So here, okay, instead of gender, let's take the survived column. No, survived, okay. Survival status, we'll put the survival status in detail. Yes, so that's what we wanted. And we will also put that on the color card. So we'll get a better idea. Now here, for not survived, we have a very small fraction, as you can see. And for survived, I have a very large number. So in each of the title, we can see that many of the passengers could manage to survive and many could, there are a very few of them who could not survive. So this looks a little difficult to interpret because most of the passengers were expected to be not survived and we are able to see something else in our chart. So there could be a possibility that we could have given a different title than what was required. So there could be a possibility that 1 stands for not survived and 0 stands for survived. So we might have to go back and check into the data set. But for now, we are able to see this graph, which gives us the count of the passengers who could survive the mishap and the ones who could not survive the mishap. So let's also change this to a count so that we get a better idea. Right. Now this graph looks better because instead of showing the summation, I am now showing the count. So here I am able to see clearly the count of those passengers who could not manage to survive, and the one which shows in orange is the one who have survived. Let's change the color theme, and for not survived I would like to put a red color. And for survived I would like to put the green color. Let's apply, and we will also put the count of survived in the label card. So I will go ahead and add this to the label card and make it as count. So now we perfectly get our values. So we can clearly see that how many of the passengers from each of the title have able to survive the Titanic mishap and the ones who could not manage to survive the mishap. So majority of the males who are adults are the ones who have unable to survive the mishap, because we see the count of 557. The least number of people who could not manage the mishap we can see are from the doctor field, and amongst the others we have 13 of them who could not survive. Amongst the children, that is master and miss, approximately 27 and 101, which makes it 128. So 128 of the passengers who are amongst the children could not manage to survive the mishap. So this is the analysis that I have done based on the title. So let's go to entire view, and now we are able to see our titles much better. So let us also add the title on the label card. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and rename the sheet. So survival rate by title. Let's also create one sheet to have a very plain view of gender wise survival status. So this time I will add only the gender. Let's go ahead and create a different chart this time. So we are going to create a tree map. So let's remove the gender here, and let's select the gender, the survival status, and the survived. Let's go ahead to the tree map. Now here we can see that we have one square for the female and one for the male. Amongst this, I would like to add the count. We'll transform this into a count. So this time I am able to see how many of the males have not survived, how many of them have survived, how many females have not survived and survived. So these are 4 different sections that I have created. Now within this, I can also go ahead and add the details basis on the title. So the same chart that I have seen in the previous sheet, we are going to create it in a slightly different form using the tree map. So So now I can precisely see the count of the people who have survived in each of these sections. So as we had already seen, majority of the males who are adults have not been able to survive, and the least section here shows in the others title who have not survived, and that's a female. And we also can see that amongst the doctors we have only 2 of them who could survive, and 1 female who is able to survive, right. So this is our entire analysis based on the title and gender based on the tree map. So we can also add in the count so that we can see the values straight away. So I will put the count of survived in the label card. So here we have the count values as well. If we want to add the shade, we can do that as per the gender. So here I have made 2 segregations based on the color, and the left hand side shows the males and the right hand side shows the females. Let us go to the entire view, and we can see that blue stands for female and orange stands for male, and here I am able to see all the values. So we can also go ahead and check for survived. Okay, we can make some changes out here. So I need not now have to add the detail about the gender on the label. So we are going to remove this from the label. If there is any other title that we can remove from the label, we will remove that so that we are able to see the labels quite clearly. Right, now what we are going to do is we will go to the label card and edit our labels. So let us see how we can edit the label. So here it is the status that I have added. The title and count of passengers. A similar thing also needs to be added to the tooltip. So we will also reduce the size of this text. So now we are able to see much more detailing. So in the tooltip, we have the similar kind of fields. We have the survival status, we have title, we have gender, and we have count of survived. So we do not want to see the gender because we can already see that through the color. We will remove that from the tooltip. Let's keep only the survival status, the title and the count of survived. So that's what I have on my tooltip. So this gives us a detailed analysis on which kind of people have survived and are more in number, wherein which of the people are quite a minority in our data set. So this is the analysis I have done through this sheet. So here we are creating a tree map, and let's go ahead to the next sheet. So to figure out how many of the passengers have traveled solo, how many of them have traveled with either one of the sibling or spouse, then the ones with parents and children. So we are going to find out all of these details with the help of a bar graph. Now since we are talking about the count of siblings and spouse or count of parents and children, naturally it's going to be a discrete value. So what we are going to do here is that the value for the siblings and spouse, which was earlier as a measure, it was showing as a measure, we will transform that into the dimension. So I'll convert this into a dimension. Now I will drag this to the columns so that I can see each distinct value for count of siblings and spouse out here in my columns. And here I would like to add the Titanic dataset count, or perhaps we can also add the count distinct of the customer ID. So here is my passenger ID. I'll put that in the rows, add all members, but instead of the direct value, I would like to now show the count distinct of my passenger ID. So we can clearly see there are approximately 891 passengers who did not have any of their siblings or spouse on the ship. Approximately 319 passengers have either a sibling or a spouse on the ship. 42 of them have maybe one spouse and one sibling, or both the siblings on the ship, and so on. So we have perfectly figured out the count of passengers who are either traveling solo, or they have either one of these spouse or sibling on the ship. So we are going to add this count distinct of passenger ID even on the label. So let's go ahead and add the passenger ID on label and convert that into a count distinct so that we can see the count perfectly. So let's also convert this into an entire view. Now we'll go ahead, rename this into count by siblings and spouse. We can also go ahead and create one more chart for parents and children. Once again, we know that parents and children is nothing but the count of passengers that are traveling along with the passenger in concern. So if I go ahead and transform this as well into a dimension, I can easily figure out the count by putting them into columns. So any passenger could have had either of 0 parents or children, 1, 2, 3 up to 9 parents and children onto the ship. So when I get the count here with the passenger ID and convert that into count distinct, here as well we can see that about 1002 passengers are such that they did not have either of parents or children onto the ship. And we can see that barely few passengers are such that they had more than 3 either of parents or children onto the ship. So we will again go ahead and add this label and transform this into a count distinct. So in this analysis, we are able to figure out whether the passenger was traveling solo or they had accompaniments in their travel, in their journey. So we will rename this sheet as count by PARCH, which stands for parents and children. Right. Now let's also go ahead and analyze the ticket fare basis on the ticket class. So if I go ahead, create another sheet, let's try to understand this variable with the help of a pie chart. So I would now select the passenger ticket class, and I will also select the fare, which is a continuous data. Go to the show me bar and click on the pie chart. Let's transform this pie chart into entire view and add the labels. So I will add the passenger ticket class on label card, and I will also add the fare on the label card and transform this sum of fare into a average. So now I know that on an average, a first passenger class ticket would cost approximately $87.51, followed by the second passenger class, in which we have $21.18 as an average fare, and 13.3 is the average fare for third ticket P class. Let's transform these values into currencies. So for that, I will right click on the label, go to format. Under fields, we are going to check for the sum of fare. Let's also change this to average before that. So we want to show the size as per the average. So that's about it. Alright, now we are ready to format our fields. So we have the average fare field, and we will transform this in numbers to currency. So the currency I would like to take is the dollars. So English United States, and we will go to custom and we will reduce the decimal places. So now I have the average fare, which is 87.5 for first, 21.2 for second and 13.3 for the third passenger class. We can also add the text label average fare. So the viewer would exactly know that this value speaks of the average fare for each of the passenger class. So the next sheet I would like to rename the sheet first. So this is my average fare per P class. We will now go ahead and create another sheet where we will understand the count of passengers that have boarded a ship from Cherbourg, Southampton or Queenstown. So let's go ahead and rename the sheet as count by port. So for this we will add our port of embarkment on columns, and let's also add the count of passenger ID on rows. We will transform this into the count distinct so that we precisely know how many passengers have boarded a ship from Cherbourg, Queenstown and Southampton. Out of this, I also want to figure out in the same chart how many of the passengers from Cherbourg have survived the mishap, how many from Queenstown survived the mishap and how many from the Southampton as well. So I will go ahead and since I have the survived column here, basis on the survival column, I have created the survival status column, which is my dimension. I will add the dimension to color. So let's convert this into an entire view, and now I precisely know that in each of the port of embarkment, what is the count of passengers who have managed to survive and how many could not survive. So let's add the same thing to our labels. So my passenger ID would go to the labels and I would transform this into a count distinct. So now I precisely know the count of passengers. So here what I can do now is I can create a title card. So let's go ahead and create a title card. I would like to put in any of one of these measure, let's say survived, into the label card. I will go ahead and edit the label and we will say analysis of Titanic. Let's enlarge this and change it to a blue color. Click on apply and click on OK. Now we will also change the alignment to horizontal and vertical center. Change the view to entire view so that we get this in the center, and we will also add the border. So I'll go to format, add the border. Let's add our border to the entire data panel. We will remove the title sheet. So hide title, right. So this is my title sheet. Now I'll go ahead and create a dashboard. In my dashboard, let's change the size to automatic. Let's add one container, a vertical container, and a second vertical container at the bottom. In the topmost vertical container, I would like to add the title sheet. So this is my title sheet. Let's drag the title sheet in the topmost container and reduce the size. Let's remove the title sheet as a header. And in the second container, I would like to put in all my charts that I have created. So first thing first, I wanted to show the count of passengers who have survived and could not survive. That is my first chart. The second chart is a pie chart basis on the port of embarkment. Now, later on, I had also created a chart which was giving me a breakdown of how many could survive and how many could not survive in the Titanic mishap. So, I have created a bar chart, a stacked bar chart for the same, which I will be adding later. So, next I would like to show the analysis by the gender. So, here we are seeing the analysis by gender and also by the title. So, instead of showing a bar chart, I can go ahead and show my tree map. So, I will remove this and add my tree map, wherein not only am I able to see the gender, but I am able to see the title as well and the breakdown based on the gender. So, we will hide the title for this as well as for the pie chart. Alright. Next, I would like to add more charts here, which can give me even better insights. So, let's also put in the average fare pie chart. And since we already have the count by port, we will now add the count by port to show the number of passengers who could not manage to survive the mishap. So, these are the 5 charts I would like to add in. Now, we are going to adjust these charts based on their sizes. So, in this particular dashboard, I am able to see more or less all of my dimensions, and I am able to see the count of passengers in each of these dimensions. And in the next sheet, I will also be showing as per each dimension the count of passengers who could manage to survive the mishap and could not survive the mishap. So, we will see an in-depth analysis in our next dashboard. So, for that we will be creating some additional sheets here. So, let us create a sheet survival status by port of embarkment. Now, the survival status by port of embarkment is created as a bar chart. What we can do is we can transform that into another sheet which can give us a better insight. So, we will go ahead and create a stacked bar chart, or maybe we can create a side by side bar chart, right. So, what we will do here is we will create a side by side bar chart with port of embarkment in columns, and then we will go ahead and add the survival status, and let us see the count. Let's transform this into entire view, and now for each of the port I am getting a thorough idea of the count of passengers who have been able to survive. Let's add in the title as well. So, we will go ahead, put the count of Titanic Dataset in the label card, and it automatically shows me the count. Also, I would like to add in some colors. So, I will put the survival status on the color card so that we can show the survived passengers in green and not survived passengers in red. So, this is one of my analysis that I am trying to do here, which is a comparative analysis. Now, we will also create another sheet where I'm trying to show the survival status by gender. In survival status by gender, I will add the gender on columns. Also, I will add the survival status on color card, and let's add the count on rows. So, I am precisely able to figure out how many males and how many females have survived or not survived the Titanic mishap. Let's add this to our label so that we can see the counts. Next, we will see this by title. So, rename survival status by title. So, I would add the title sheet. Here is my title, and I will also add the count on rows, and we will add the survival status on color card. So, now I have the count as per the titles. Next, let us create a new column. We will first create a new column. In this new column, we will say count of family. So, when I create a column count of family, I am basically trying to add the number of parents and children and the number of siblings and spouse. Since all of them count as a family, I basically want to figure out how many of the passengers have travelled along with their family members and how many are travelling solo. So, we will get the count of that as well. Now, let us go ahead and add both of these columns. So, I would like to add one column for parents and children, which I would like to copy. So, I will create a duplicate for this and transform that into a measure. Rename it as measure. Same I would do for the siblings and spouse. Create a duplicate of that and transform that into a measure. Because unless and until the value is not a measure, we will not be able to create a summation. So, we will rename this as measure. Right. Now, I can create my calculated field. So, I will go ahead create the calculated field as a count of family and family members, and let's add parents and children as measure plus siblings and spouse as measure. Click on apply, click on OK, and here I have my count of family members. Now, what I can do is I can just add this as a duplicate, convert this into a dimension. Now, in this count of family members, let us add this to the columns. So, I could have any value from 0 to 10 as a matter of count of the number of family members travelling with the passenger. So, I will add the count in rows and I will also add the survival status in my color card. So I can clearly see that the passengers who travelled solo, out of that how many of them have survived and how many could not survive. And the same goes for all the others, the ones who travelled with just one family member, two family members, three family members, and so on. So we'll go ahead, add our count on the label card. So we'll go ahead and click on the entire view. So we have the entire view of the data. Now the next thing that we need to show here, first we'll rename it. We'll rename this as survival status by count of family. Alright. The next one would be, so we have taken port, we have taken gender, we have taken title, count of family members, perfect. And let us look at any other. So we can also check as per the passenger ticket class, that's quite important. As we know that a higher ticket class would mean more privileges, so we expect that more number of passengers could have survived from the ticket P class 1 and lesser passengers could survive with the ticket P class 3. So let's create this survival status by P class. Now here what we are going to do is, we will add the ticket P class on columns, we will add the count in rows, and followed by that I would also like to add the survival status on the color card. And as expected, we can clearly see that from the ticket P class 3, I see quite a good count for not survived. So this was quite expected, wherein on the other hand, when you look at the first ticket P class, the more number of passengers here seem to have survived the mishap. So let's go ahead and create the label, but this time I would like to show this label as a percentage. So I will go ahead and click on the drop down, quick table calculation, and I would like to show this as a percent of total. Now here I would like to show my total as per the ticket P class. So I will also go ahead, compute using the table down. So I know precisely the percentage for each and every ticket P class and what is the percentage within each class for the survival and not survival status. So we have now created sufficient number of charts, and we would now go ahead and add up all of these things into our dashboard. So let us create another dashboard. In this dashboard as well, we will change the size to automatic. Let's add a title sheet. Duplicate this one. So this is my title for survival status dashboard. Wherein I would like to edit my title. Alright, so in my second dashboard, I will now add in my sheets. So here firstly I will add the vertical container, another vertical container at the bottom. Let's add the sheet. So this is my title for this sheet, and hide this title, and let's try to reduce the height. Right. Now I will add another horizontal container in my bottommost vertical container so that I can arrange my charts. The first chart I would like to add is by port, the second one by gender, the third one by title, then the count of family members, and finally we'll add the ticket P class on the rightmost side. So the only label that I would like to keep as a legend is the survival status, because this entire dashboard talks about the survival status of the passengers. So now I can see my entire analysis based on the different dimensions for the passengers that have survived and that could not manage to survive. Let's add this as a floating object. So I will go ahead and make it as a floating object, and this floating object can be shown on the top right corner. So we will also hide the titles for every chart. Hide the title. And this way I get a much better view. So here I have created a project which can easily show me the survival status for all the passengers on the Titanic based on the gender, based on title, based on the port of embarkment, also the passenger ticket class, and as per the count of family members. So this is all that we need to do in our mini project. Thank you so much, and you can wait ahead for our major project.
ExcelR. We don't just train, we build careers.